Hello, my name is Stephen Bozier. I'm a senior from New York, and I sing with the Jabberwocks of Brown University and Shades of Brown.
My name is Stanley Munoz. I am a senior, and my type of performance on campus is dance.
Hi, my name is Shibwika Mwizu.
Hi, I'm Aisha Zamore. I am a dancer for both the Impulse Dance Company and the Fusion Dance Company.
I dance for Oja, Modern African Dance.
My name is Randy Villegas Hill. I am a TAPS concentrator, and I am predominantly an actor, but I also write poetry and a little singing.
Prior to Brown, I would not have seen myself in a cappella, but I have an extensive background in high school choir and middle school choir and church choir, so I've been singing all the time as long as I can remember. So just growing up in church and like when the choir sang, that was always my favorite part, and so I don't remember distinctly when I realized that like, oh, singing was something I love, or more so when I realized that singing was something that I was good at per se, but I was just kind of always doing it.
Well, I've danced my entire life, actually. I started training and taking classes when I was a senior in high school. I just started taking salsa classes. Then I was invited to join the salsa studio, their youth team. And so I joined, and then they had me lead the youth team, and so that was a good experience. It was either continue with a professional company after, or stay on the youth team and then come to Brown. And so I came to Brown.
Well, I started dancing when I was 3. I used to take like these combo classes at my like old dance studio, so like tap and ballet and starting out, and we would have these like cute little recitals. And then I think I got more serious around age 10. Then I got even more serious and I started doing intensives at the summer intensives at the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater and also the Paul Taylor Dance Company.
Born in Nigeria, lived in Harlem, moved to Fort Morgan, Colorado, moved to Greeley, Colorado. I've always liked dancing. I was a kid that tried to learn like the Dougie and the Nay Nay when they first came out, and I wanted to be the first one to know it really, really well. But I'd never been exposed to like this type of group dance, this synchronized dance, and so I was attracted because of like a curiosity.
It's a weird story. Me and my dad are huge wrestling fans, and my dad and I had made a bet that like, if the Undertaker lost the match, and it was for like a championship, right? If the Undertaker lost the match, I would go to bed early. And he was like, okay, but the person you want to win is going to lose. And I was like, nah, they're like the best. They're going to win. And they lost. And he was like, all right, I got to tell you, I knew they were going to win because it's all scripted. And I was like, it's not scripted. Man, this like wrestling is real, right? And he was like, no, it's like a performance. And that's kind of what it started. Like, they're just acting. I can act. Like, I wrestle with you on a regular basis. Ours isn't scripted. If there is a scripted, I can do it, right? And I guess it's just kind of how I got my start. And I just like went to middle school and started doing it. My friends and I had written our own musical about our experience in middle school, and we put it on for the school, and everyone loved it. And that's kind of when, like, I decided I would pursue this. I had known since I was like 8. And then, in high school, I just kept up with it.
So, like, I like the fraternal and, like, social aspect of having a group of friends who, like, share this love for performing. Shades of Brown is dope, okay? I love that group. I've been in these two groups since freshman year because I get different things from them. And Shades of Brown, like, being rooted in African-American traditional music and just, like, there's kind of this, like, warmth and feel when we perform, especially when we perform for, like, ethnic group events, like, so we perform for like the Black Appreciation Dinner, or if we perform for Ebony Soiree, and like we're performing for the same, like our same communities, then there's just like this warmth and this like familiar atmosphere that we get to perform in.
This is now my 4th year as a member of Mezcla. Our dedication to not just performing these Latin dance styles, but also honoring the tradition from which they came from has been critical to our development as a company. I know that's something that I definitely stressed when I was co-director and tried to push us more towards making sure that we were very aware of where we were drawing our dances from. The community is just, it's so welcoming and loving, and it's definitely much more relaxed than are some of the other companies, but that's only allowed us to explore these styles in a stress-free but still respectful manner.
There is such a great dance community here, and there are so many different styles to learn and different people to learn from. Ballet being very classical and also not always an avenue for people of color, because it's a very like privileged style of dance. Like in the dance community, the more money you have, like to have access to classes and training, the better you become. Coming to Brown and having so many different groups on campus of like different backgrounds and cultures really allowed me to reconcile with that part of my identity, my Caribbean identity. So being able to like, especially with Impulse as a hip hop dance company, we do a lot of dance hall and things like that. And so that's where I felt it felt like a kind of awakening, at least. Yeah, it felt like an awakening where I was like, oh, this is this part of myself that I'm now able to explore and uncover and grow with other people who share the same background that I do.
Oja actually means fire in the Ghanaian language that the name is derived from. And we always say like, we're lit, we're lit, we're lit. We really take pride in that, in our African heritage.
Rights and Reason is a lot more people of color involved. It's also a lot more community-based here, as opposed to like Brown's main stage, or even like Shakespeare on the Green and PW. Rights and Reason is very much black theater. It's housed in the Africana department. Just the fact that we have that space. Like most other colleges, at least to my knowledge, do not have like a black theater program. They have theater that has black people, but that's not necessarily the same thing. Brown University has the Africana department, and then within that is this like theater for people of color.
Musically, I'm most inspired and influenced by black artists in the areas of like R&B, soul, hip hop, gospel, and like some forms of mainstream pop and rock. As I like have tried to explore acting and dance more, I've done 2 musicals at Brown, and in both of those musicals, I played a black man, who was specifically black. Chorus Line is a show about dancers, and it celebrates diversity and celebrates people's different identities. So my identity as black comes through in different ways there. So for me, figuring out like how to convey like the fact that I'm black, instead of and then more than just like seeing the fact that I'm black, I try to figure out how like that played into his identity as a character and as a dancer. Brown at its best is a place that celebrates people for who they are, and celebrates them for their experiences and for their identities, and allows them to really be comfortable, or tries to allow them to be comfortable to really explore them and show their true selves to everyone.
I mean, being Dominican and growing up in Washington Heights and Harlem, like that, dance has always been around me. It's at home, in my community, in my schools, everywhere that I was, dance was always played some kind of role through a more social form. And so I've been dancing all my life, technically. Or looking at my Afro identity as a performer, something that's very interesting is there's this question of who is gazing at me and who is watching me, and what are they thinking, what ideas are they assuming onto me as soon as they see me on stage. So being a black performer has been both liberating and extremely limiting. One of the words that I hate is the word aggressive. Especially as now a primarily hip-hop dancer. Aggression and hip-hop are not tied together intrinsically, yet so many people can't seem to separate those two things. I just did a dance at the fall dance concert, and several of the comments from the people was aggressive. It was a little bit aggressive, especially that really bothered me. Not just because I am a black dancer and a black mover. My movement stems from black movement, but a lot of the dancers on stage in this piece were women of color, and most of them black women of color. So being black and being on stage, you feel just as surveilled as when you are not on stage. And so to see that term aggression as describing everything that they did on that stage, everything that they were offering, everything that they were trying to depict, when that was in no way the theme, just points to what the experience can be like being a black performer.
Noticing the different types of people that are present at the auditions, and like they look like people of color, people that are not of color, different backgrounds, and that being like this is a very diverse space, and so that has allowed me to grow in ways that I was restricted in when I danced at my previous studio. Apart from like my family dancing at parties and like Haitian music and like zouk and all these other different genres of music within Haitian culture, I have yet to actually meet up with some Haitians at Brown and kind of have conversations about this and like be more immersed in that culture, which is something that I really want to do, because like when I go home, it's great to be back in that, like the culture of my home and Haitian culture, and then coming here at Brown and interacting with all these different identities, but also still having like a home away from home.
I feel that this is an opportunity for me and the members of OJA to break down what is quote unquote African, and we do that by, you know, incorporating in dance moves from, you know, black culture here in America. And we also try to display like music from different parts of the continent, so not just West Africa, which is typically what is represented as African, quote unquote African music. Anywhere in Africa you go, you will find like a very, very rich culture that is informed by the history of that region and like the struggles that the people in that region had to go through.
I'm automatically kind of thrown into, like, you're a person of color, you do theater, you're a black actor, which that shift was kind of really weird the first time, and I think over my 4 years here, I've really kind of grown to embrace it. Like, yeah, I'm black, yeah, I act. The two aren't mutually exclusive. It actually like helps me. And I think recognizing that I'm black and that I'll have further to go has just made me work harder to get where I am now.
So you ask why? Why? Why are we still intrigued by this damn film?
Like, Shakespeare was not necessarily writing for black people. He was not necessarily writing for Spanish or Latinx. So when we are doing those, because those shows are important too. Like, those are our classics. We love them, we need them, we read them, we study them. But while those shows may not have been written for these cultures, those cultures were there too. And so it's important to see that representation on stage. So like, even if it was written for a white actor, you can throw in a person of color and it doesn't change the story. Mm-hmm. It actually probably makes it more representational of what was actually happening.
The presence of black performers at Brown is extremely strong, especially as black dancers. Mescla, a lot of the dances are very Afrocentric. We have OJA, West African Dance Troupe, which it's so nice to have that they are here.
For the most part, like, being me as a black performer, it has a lot of it has dealt with just who I look to and like who I admired growing up and who I still admire and look to.
Interacting with like my fellow African Americans, but also coming from different cultures, so like Caribbean and like African, and even within Caribbean there's like Jamaican, Haitian, and Afro-Dominican, and all these different backgrounds, and realizing that there are a lot of divisions, but also being able to find like overlap between our different identities and like understanding those different cultures.
Hip hop stems from black, and it came from blacks and Latinos in the South Bronx. And it has a history of resistance. It has a history of black movement, and that is what it comes from.
I feel like I've had a lot of time where I've been around, like, in church I've been around other people like singing in choirs, that's an aspect of performance, and that's just with people that look like me, so there's that comfort too. But then also just like being comfortable when that's not the case.
So yeah, you take a little bit from everyone, and that helps you grow as a dancer.
Like your unique experience is part of the grand narrative of all Black immigrants or the whole Black community. It is still a journey. I said it has been a journey, but it's still a journey that I'm still like, I work through every single day, and we really, really try to like shine, and be that fire that we know we are and we know that we're supposed to be.
What's it on that beat? Oh.
I ain't looking for a cheap thrill. If I love, I wanna love real. Give me something I can feel. Pull me up, I drink it down and get a refill. I don't just give trust. With you, I'm high. Something ignites us like fire. I don't want your money, I just want your appeal. Kick back, Netflix and chill. All I ask is that you keep your hand at the deal. Boy, we got mad time to kill.